Section 2 of the CMAT 2025 paper. Question 21. The price of a smartphone is $1,200 plus VAT of 12.5%. What is the final price of the smartphone? We should know that 12.5% is, as a fraction, is 1/8. But what if you don't know that? How do you change this percent to a fraction? We can simply divide by 100. 12 twos are 24 plus 1 is 25 over 2. And we are going to divide this by 100. What do we do when we are dividing fractions? We change the division sign to a multiplication sign and we reciprocate the second fraction. Here we look for opportunities to reduce before we multiply. So we'll do 25 into 25 is 1, 25 into 100 is 4, 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 4s are 8. So that's how we get 1/8. Yes, but again, because VAT 12.5% is used so frequently, we memorize that 12.5% as a fraction is 1/8. But what if you get another fraction and another percent like this, and you did not learn it by heart? Then what would you do? Another one that we learn by heart, not straying from the question, is 33 1/3%. We learned that 33 1/3% as a fraction is 1/3. But what if you forget? You simply change the mixed number to an improper fraction. Here we'll have 100 over 3, and we divide by 100. Okay, so, and once we do that, you will get a third. 100 into 100 is 1, and you will get a third. All right, nice. So back to the question. So the price of the smartphone is $1,200 plus the VAT of 12.5%, which is 1/8. What is the final price of the smartphone? The first thing you need to work out is the VAT. So you find 1/8 of the total. 8 into 8 is 1. 8 into 12 is 1 with a remainder of 4. 8 into 40 is 5. 8 into 0 is 0. We are getting 150. Now that we know what the VAT is, we can work out the final price. Remember, we have to add VAT. VAT is value added tax. Okay, so it's costing $1,200, but you have to pay the additional $150 in tax. And this will give us $1,350. In this question, we had to find the VAT. Now, there may be some other questions where the VAT is included. What do you do then? Follow me and look out for more videos where I would share things like that. Question 22. A list of ingredients for 10 cookies is shown below. 100 grams of butter, 100 grams of sugar, 30 grams chocolate, 180 grams flour, 25 grams of cereal. Kamini wants to make 12 cookies. How much flour would she need? So we have to focus on the flour. What did the question give us? The list of ingredients for 10. So this is telling us that the flour she needs to make 10 cookies is 180 grams. So if we know the flour that she needs for 10 cookies is 180 grams, then we should find out the flour that she needs for 1 cookie. What would we do to determine the flour she needs for 1 cookie? We would need to divide by 10, and we will get 18 grams. Now that we know how much grams she needs for 1 cookie, we can work out the amount of flour she needs for 12 cookies. So for 12 cookies, it would be 12 times 18. And again, you're not allowed to use calculators, so you multiply. We are multiplying by a 2-digit number. So the first thing we do is put a 0. And that's if we are multiplying with the multiplier in the tens place first. I know some persons, they choose to multiply with the multiplier in the ones place. So if you begin by multiplying 8 twos are 16, then you don't need to put a 0 first. But I am multiplying with the multiplier in the tens place, so I am putting a 0 first. I will do it both ways and we'll check the answer. I am using the multiplier in the tens place, so I'm putting a 0 first. 1, 2 is 2, 1 times 1 is 1, 8 twos are 16, 8 ones are 8, and 1 is 9, and then we add 6, 9, 10, 11, 1 plus 1 is 2, 216 grams of flour she would need, and let's multiply this one again. As we did just now, we are starting with the multiplier in the ones place, so we don't put a 0 first. 8 twos are 16, cross out the 6, put it on the inside, 8 ones are 8, plus 1 is 9. Then I'm going to multiply with my multiplier in the tens place, so I have to put a 0 first, and then do 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 1 is 1. And now I add 6 plus 0 is 6, 9 plus 2 is 11, 1 plus 1 is 2, and we are still getting our answer to be 216 grams. That's the amount of flour she will need. Question 23, complete the shopping bill shown below. So we have the items, we have the unit cost, we have the quantity, we have the total. The item is a cupcake, and here they give us the unit cost. What is the unit cost? The unit cost is the cost for one. The quantity tells us how many cupcakes were purchased. So the cupcake, $5 for one, 2 cupcakes were purchased, 5 twos are $10 for the both. Then we have current rule. So the unit cost, the cost for one is $9. So the cost for 3 would be 9 times 3 is 27. Donut, we do not know the cost for one, but we know that 6 was purchased, and we do not know the total cost. However, the total cost for all 3 items, the total cost for all the cupcakes, the current roll, and the donut is $79. So what would we do in this case? Because the total is given, what we will do, we will add and subtract from the total. So we would subtract the sum of 10 and 27. So it's going to be 10, it's going to be 79, take away 37. And let me write it vertically so we can subtract. 7 from 9 is 2. 7 take away 3 is 4. So we are getting $42. This $42 now represents what? It represents the price for 6 donuts. If we know the price for 6 donuts, what would we do to find the price for one? To find the amount of grams needed for one cookie, we divided. What would we do here to find the cost of one donut? We would divide 42 by 6. We should know our 6 timetables. And if you can't remember your 6 timetables, count in 6, right? So 6, these are my fingers. Laugh if you want. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42. How much fingers do I have up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6 sevens are 42. So how much donuts were purchased? 7. Question 24. The table below shows the cost of printing postcards at a printery. We are seeing a table. Let's read the information and understand what the question wants us to do. They're telling us the number of postcards and they're telling us the cost. They said if you print the first 200, you are paying $160. However, for every additional set of 5, you will be paying $3. Gail printed 700 postcards. How much did she pay? So let's think about this. She has 700. And for the first 200, so if we remove the 200, she is paying $160 for the first 200. Just for the first 200, but she purchased 700. How many more postcards would she need to buy? How many more postcards does she need? So we are going to subtract. She still needs 500 postcards. Now, let us read the table again. It says for every additional set of 5, I'm going to change the word set to group. For every additional group of 5, she is paying $3. What do we do when we are putting things into groups? We need to divide. So we are going to divide the remaining cards by 5. How much times could 5 go into 500? 5 can go into 500 100 times. But for those who needs to see that, let us work it out. So some persons are very uncomfortable doing short division. Short division is something you master after a lot of practice. So if you're doing short division, it will be 5 into 5 is 1, 5 into 5 is 1, 5 into 0 is 0, 5 into 0 is 0. If you have a problem with that, then you could do long division. 5 into 5 is 1, 5 into 0 is 0, 5 into 0 is 0. So either way, you will get your answer. Good? So we are getting 100. What does this 100 represent? We are getting 100 groups. How many sets of 5 are we getting? 100. What are we going to do with that 100? We are going to multiply that 100 by 3, and that is going to give us $300. Why did we do this? We are not randomly doing operations, Let's read the question again. We know what happened to the first 200. She's paying $160 for that. But then the question said for every set of 5. So we found the remainder, which is 500. And for every set of 5, for every group of 5, she's paying $3. So for someone who may not understand, well, why we need to divide the 500 by 5. Okay, remember they said for every additional set of 5, she's paying $3. Are you willing to draw 500 counters? And when you draw these 500 counters, you put them into groups of 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You put them into groups of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. So if you draw your counters and you put them into groups of 5 and then label for each group, it's $3. Are you willing to do this for 500? See, so when they're asking you to put things into groups, then you need to divide. So I do tell my students if they are reading a question, having difficulties understanding what the question is saying, depending on what the question is, drawing can help. So you might begin to draw like this and then realize, okay, I'm not going to draw 500 counters and put them into groups of 5. The easier thing to do would simply be to divide my 500 counters by 5, and I will get 100 sets. So the 100 sets I'm getting, I need to multiply it by 3. And that's going to tell me the total cost. Sometimes we get numbers and we don't understand what it means. This $300 will be the cost to print the other 500. Now the question is asking us, how much did she pay? It's not just going to be 300. Why? Because for the first 200, she paid 160. So to get the total, it's going to be 160 plus 300, and that's going to give us $460. Question 25. Nick has 4 boxes of balloons, okay? Each box contains 108 balloons. Nick packs the balloons into party bags. He packs 14 balloons into each party bag. How many more balloons will he need to fill the last party bag? Now that we read the whole question, let us go back to the start and begin to work things line by line. Nick has 4 boxes of balloons. And as I said before, I say to some of my students, listen, if you don't get it, then begin to draw. It could help you. Okay? And I'm sure you can draw better than me. So just to get a sense as to what this question is saying to us, I am going to draw 4 boxes. The question is telling us that each one has 108 balloons. Yes, I'm not going to draw 108 balloons, but I'll write 108 in the boxes. So this is what we have. And then they said he packs the balloons into party bags. He packs 14 into each party bag. What do we need to know before we begin to pack? Before we begin to put the balloons into groups of 14? What do we need to know? The total number of balloons he has. And remember, repeated addition is multiplication. So to work out the total balloons he has, we would multiply 108 by 4. And let's do that. 4 8s are 32. 4 by 0 is 0, plus 3 is 3, 4 1s are 4. So the total balloons he has is 432. Now that we know the total balloon he has, then we can put the balloons into groups. Again, he is packaging them, 14 balloons into a party bag. So he is grouping the balloons into groups of 14. Are we going to draw 432 counters and put them into groups of 14? No. What do we do when we are putting things into groups? We divide. So to determine the number of bags that he has, then we need to divide the balloons by 14. So long division with a 2-digit divisor. These are operations that you would have learned, or you should have learned, before you even begin to do word problems. So you need to practice your operations so that when you encounter them in problems, it's going to be easy for you to do. How much times could 14 go into 43? You don't know. So you need to do your 14 times tables on the spot. So let's do 14 by 1. We should know that that is 14. Let's go to 14 by 2. That is 28. Let's go to 14 by 3. That's going to give us 42. 3 4s are 12. 3 1s are 3, plus 1 is 4. So 14 can go into 43 3 times, because 14 by 3 is 42. Then we subtract. 3 take away 2 is 1. 4 take away 4 is 0. And then we bring down. Now we say 14 into 12. Could 14 go into 12? What does 14 into 12 mean? 14 into 12 means if you have 12 counters, how many groups of 14 could you get from that? You're not going to get 14 counters from a group of 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You have 12 counters. Could you get a group of 14? No, you cannot. So 14 into 12 is 0. 14 by 0 is 0. What is this telling us? We just did a long division question. You're seeing 30 with a remainder of 12. When you get numbers, you have to understand what it means. This 30 with a remainder of 12 means that we have 30 bags. There are 30 bags packed. So the number of bags that have 14 balloons is 30. And the remainder is 12. What does that mean? We have 12 balloons. So that's why the question asks us, how many more balloons would he need to fill the last party bag? If he remained with 12, how much more must be added here to give us 14? 2 more. Remember, a party bag has 14, but he's remaining with 12. How much more does he need? He is going to need 2 more balloons. Now, one of the first mistakes some students would make here is by trying to divide 108 by 14, because they would have missed the fact that he has 4 boxes and each of them is 108. So to find the total number of balloons, you need to multiply 4 by 108. So pay close attention to your questions. Please read it multiple times. Question 26, a number pattern is shown below. The fifth element is not shown. Draw the fifth element and describe the pattern. So let's examine what we have here. The height here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 dots for the height here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what is this 7 and this 6 is telling us? For this 7, it's showing us that we have 7 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this 6 is showing us that we have 6 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So pay attention to the rows and pay attention to the columns. The second one, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so it went down by 1. So instead of having 7 rows, we now have 6 rows. How much columns do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So instead of having 6 columns, we now have 5 columns. Let's check rows again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the pattern is clear, right? And now columns, we have 4. So if we continue with this, we would be able to draw the fifth element and describe the pattern. How many rows do we have here now? 1, 2, 3, 4. And how many columns? So rows is this, and columns is this. We have 3 columns. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows and 3 columns. So for the fifth pattern, if you notice, a row is being decreased and a column is being decreased. So here I have 3 columns, so now I would have 2 columns. Here I have 4 rows, so now I would have 3 rows. So this is what the fifth pattern would look like. I'll now have 3 rows and 2 columns. And the sixth pattern, 2 rows and 1 column. So if we have to describe the pattern, we can say that we are moving a row and a column from the previous pattern. So to get this pattern from the previous pattern, which is this one, we are removing a row and a column. So if we have to describe it, that's what we can say. We are removing a row and a column from the previous pattern. Question 27. The cost of 1 table and 4 chairs is $280. The cost of 1 table is 3 times the cost of 1 chair. Calculate the cost of 1 table. Simultaneous equations. Let's write our equation. The question is telling us the cost of 1 table. So 1t plus 4 chairs, 4c, is equal to $280. Then the question gave us this important key here. It says that the cost of 1 table, 1t, is 3 times the cost of a chair. So 1t is 3c. So that's telling us that 1 table is equal to the cost of 3 chairs. Now, for this question, we can see that we have 1 table and it's equivalent to the cost of 3 chairs. But in some questions, you may not see it immediately. So we may have to count on until we find the equivalent. We may have to count on this side in 1s and on this side in 3s. So if 1 table is equal to the cost of 3 chairs, if we look at our question, we have 1 table and it's equivalent to the cost of 3 chairs. So I can change this 1 table to 3 chairs, and 3 chairs plus 4 chairs is equal to $280. I have 3 chairs and 4 chairs. I can add the chairs and it's a total of 7 chairs. So 7 chairs is costing $280. If we know the cost of 7 chairs, what would we do to find the cost of 1 chair? We will divide 280 by 7. 7 into 7 is 1. 7 into 20, it is 4. 7 into 0 is 0. We are getting 40. So we are getting 1 chair to be $40. Now I want you to notice something. When I had one table plus 4 chairs, I could not have had one table and 4 chairs and have 4 table chairs. That's not how it goes. It's because I have 3 chairs and 4 chairs, I can add the total number of chairs. Okay, and that's how I got a total of 7 chairs. And because I know the cost of 7 chairs, I can work out the cost for 1 chair. Now, how does knowing the cost for 1 chair help us? Because the question is, remember the question wants the cost of 1 table. So how does knowing the cost of 1 chair help us? 1 chair is costing $40. So if I work out the cost for 3 chairs, 3 by 40 is 120. That is the cost of 1 table. So 1 table is costing $120. And there are lots of variations to these questions. So make sure when you're practicing, you're not just practicing one type, you're practicing quite a few variations. Sometimes when they give you the key, like on this side, with 1 table is equal to 3 chairs, not all the time it will be the first number that you're using. Sometimes, let me remove this to explain. Sometimes you will have to continue counting in these numbers. So we know that 1 table is 3 chairs. So 2 tables will be equivalent to how much chairs? On this side, we'll count in 1s. On this side, we'll count in 3s. 3, 6. 3 tables will be equivalent to how many chairs? 3, 6, 9. So again, you see this side we are counting in 1s and this side we are counting in 3s. Sometimes, based on the question, you may not have gotten the answer that you need to substitute one time. You may need to keep counting until you get your answer. Okay. Question 28. The diagram shows a triangle. On each side of the triangle, there are 3 circles, and we can see that the sum of the numbers on each side is 1.2. So whatever numbers we substitute, we must get it to be 1.2. So these are the numbers that were given for the question. So whatever I put in, I have to add after. So if I use 0.3 first, plus 0.7, and I would need 2 more to make it 1.2. Now, if I have 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm going to need 4 more to make it 1.2. And 4, 5, 6, I need 6 more. I put 0.6 here to make sure it's 1.2. Okay, if you didn't get it on the first try, you would need to, once you add, you just switch around the numbers, but make sure you're getting what the question wants, which is 1.2. The clock below shows the time Aliyah arrived at the mall. Her journey from home to the mall took 25 minutes. So from home to the mall, it's taking 25 minutes, and they are showing us the time that she arrived. The question is, what time did she arrive? She arrived at, where is the longhand? On 1, and it's not 1 minute past 3. Okay, because not all questions will come like this. Some questions will ask you to write the time that you're seeing on the clock, right? We're still going to write the time that they want us to write. So remember, you're counting in 5s. So this is 5 minutes past 3. Okay, so this is 3:05. But the question don't want the time that you're seeing on the clock. The question wants us to determine what time she left home. If her journey from home to the mall take 25 minutes, then we need to go back 25 minutes and it will tell us the time that she left home. So from here to here, it's 5 minutes. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So where would your longhand be? Your longhand will actually be on 8. How much minutes past it is when your longhand is on 8? Let's check now. If you can't, just check. You should know by 6 is 30. But if you didn't know, let's still count. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So it's 40 minutes past. 40 minutes past is going to go on the right-hand side of your colon. 40 minutes past what hour? Is it going to be past 3? No, it isn't. We went back. We went back. So it's going to be past 2. So it's going to be 40 minutes past 2, and the time is going to be 2:40. And they gave you the clock, so you could do exactly what I did here. Count back. Two identical pieces of cardboard were stuck together, shown below. The length of the overlapping portion is 40 centimeters. What is the length of each piece of cardboard before they were stuck together? So again, let's examine. This is one cardboard here. We do not know the full length of this one cardboard, but you have a second one that is overlapping, and that's 40 centimeters. Before we could focus on knowing the length of each, let's try to determine the length of the two that we're seeing here. This cardboard B, it came up, it's covering part of cardboard A, but if we take it down here, we are moving it 40 centimeters further down. Once we add 130 and 40, we will get 170 centimeters. And what does this represent? The total length of both A and B. Once we know the length of A and B, the question wants to know the length of each. The question wants to know the length of one. What would we do to find the length of one? What would we do to find the length of each? We would divide how much pieces we have? 2. 2 into 17 is 8, with a remainder of 2 8s are 16 and 1, the remainder of 1. 2 into 10 is 5. So the length of each piece is going to be 85 centimeters. 31. Mr. Dawson land is divided into 2 rectangular gardens as shown below. Mr. Dawson wants to build a fence around his entire land. So around his entire land. Let's take a look at that. Around his entire land. So here, 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 here. Let's continue reading. And between garden 1 and garden 2. And here too. How many meters of fence will he need? What do we need to do? We need to add. We are finding distance all around his shape and also between garden 1 and garden 2. So this is what we will call a compound shape. A shape that is made up of more than one shapes. So here is 60 meters. We don't know what here is. Touch all sides of the shape. It's easy to miss a part. We know what here is, here, here. We don't know what here is. So we have 3 parts to figure out. So let's look at this. If the entire length here is 100 and here is 65, we can subtract 65 from 100, and that will give us what this piece up here is. 65 from 100 is 35. So here is 35. Now the next question mark we have here to find. Let's look at this line. So if we look at the line, we will see that the entire length here is 60. Up to this point is 40. So that means here will be 40 as well. Wasn't the one we were looking at, but we found it anyway. We found it anyway. Here will be 40. And if here is 40, what is going to be this piece here? If the entire thing is 60 and here is 40, you need to subtract. If I take 40 from 60, I will get 20. So that means here is 20. So it's important to touch all sides of your shape and make sure that you're not missing any part before you add. So let's do that again. We know here is 60. We know this whole thing is 100. We know here is 40. Here is 65. Here is 20. Here is 35. And we add those numbers. Again, 60 plus 35 plus 20 plus 65 plus 40 plus 100. Plus 100, and let us not forget the 40 here. Plus 40, and when we add this, we will get 360. Question 32. 2 containers, A and B, are shown below. Container A is a cube and container B is a cuboid. Container A is completely filled with water and container B is empty. The water from container A, from here, is poured into container B. What is the height of the water in container B? So the question gave us a cube and they told us it's filled with water. How do we find the volume of a cube? It is side times side times side. So it's going to be 8 times 8 times 8. So it's going to be 8 8s are 64, and 64 by 8 is 512 centimeters cube. That's the volume of the cube. And they're telling us that this amount of water is being poured into this shape. What is this? This cuboid, this container is the shape of a cuboid, right? And how do we find the volume of a cuboid? The volume of the cuboid is length times breadth times the height. What did the question give us? The question gave us the length, which is 16. So it's important to write your formulas. It's really important to write your formulas. The question gave us the length, which is 16. The question gave us the breadth, which is 8. The question did not give us the height. However, the question did in fact give us the volume. And the volume is the same as what the volume is, as the volume is the same as the cube. So you see, some persons will have missed that information. We don't want to miss anything. We know the volume, we know the length, we know the breadth, and we don't know the height. So what would we do to find the height? We would multiply and divide by 512. So it's going to be 512 divided by, you have to multiply 16 by 8. So let's do so. 8 by 6 is 48. 8 ones are 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 128. So we are getting 128. How much times can 128 going to 512? Well, you don't know, so you're going to have to do your 128 timetables on the spot. You can leave it as short division, or you can set it up as long like this, 128 into 512. Okay? So let's do the 128 times table on the spot now. 128 by 1 is 128. Let's go by 2. 8 2s are 16. And listen, I won't bother to use 2, because I know once I get 16 here, this number that I'm looking to get, 512, it ends with a 2. But I'm going to do it nevertheless, okay? No shortcuts. You want to be sure we're getting the answer. 2 8s are 16, 2 2s are 4, and 1 is 5. 2 1s are 2, 256. So let's do 128 by 3. 3 8s are 24. 8s are 24. 3 2s are 6, 7, 8. 3 1s are 3, 384. So we're going to have to do 128 by 4. 4 8s are 32. We're getting somewhere. 32. 4 2s are 8, 9, 10, 11. Cross it out. 4 1s are 4, 5. Cross it out. We are getting 512. So 128 could go into 512 4 times. So what does this 4 represent? The height of the container. Okay, so we're getting the height here to be, so we're getting the height to be 4. So I'm just saying, for another question, if the volume is given for a cuboid, right? The volume is given, the length is given, the height is given, but in the next scenario, the breadth isn't given. What would we do? The same thing. We would multiply the length and the height, and we will divide it by the volume. Okay? What do we do if the volume is not given? Well, we know how to find volume. You multiply length by breadth by height. Question 33. An incomplete 5-sided shape ABCDE is shown on the grid below. 3 sides of the shape are shown. Happy to see that. The completed shape must have 3 right angles. Well, we already have 2. Complete the shape. You will see the right angle if you connect the shape. Let's come to this point. If you look at it really good, a right angle is formed right here. State one similarity and one difference between a square and a rhombus. So let's state two because we're practicing. What do we know about a square and a rhombus? They both have 4 equal sides. What else do we know about them? They both they have 2 pairs parallel sides. Let's look at the difference. And when we're looking at the difference, you're looking at the properties of shape. Think about the sides. Think about the sides. Think about the angles. Think about the lines of symmetry. So if we think about the lines of symmetry, a square has 4 lines of symmetry, while a rhombus has 2 lines of symmetry. So I have to write this better. I have to put it in. A square has 4 lines of symmetry, while a rhombus, remember, is the difference. I have to state it clearly. So a square has 4 lines of symmetry, while a rhombus has 2 lines of symmetry. This is one difference. Another difference would be, let's think about the angles. A square has 4 right angles. Isn't that so? Draw the shape if you need to. A square has 4 right angles. How many right angles does a rhombus have? 0. It does have 2 acute and 2 obtuse angles. Do we remember what those things are? Acute angles are angles that are less than 90 degrees, while an obtuse angle will be greater than 90 degrees, but less than 180 degrees. Okay? Let's look at question 35. The pictograph below represents storybooks owned by 3 students. Let's read. Storybooks owned by 3 students, Amani, Zara, and Ibi. So Amani owns 15 more. Now, every time you see these questions, the first thing you should be looking for is the key. Was the key given? No. So you know you're going to have to find the key, what one of this represents. And the question is giving us the information we need. It's saying Amani, let's examine Amani, has 15 more books than Zara. If you look at Zara, you look at Amani, you would see that Amani actually has 3 books. This is the hint that we need. This is the information that we need to find the key, how much one book represents. So if they're telling us that Amani owns 15 more books, then to get the key, we're going to have to divide 15 by how much books we are seeing here extra? 3. And that's going to tell us the key is 5. So one book represents 5. And based on that, they want to know how many books does EB own. We can count in 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Or we can count in 1s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And multiply 6 by 5 and get 30. Okay, so 30 is our answer. Question 36. Asha's mean score on 2 tests was 54. So mean. Her score on the first test was 12 less than her score on the second test. What was her score on the first test? So again, mean. What I encourage my students to do when you are doing a mean question is what we call set it up. So remember, when you're doing a mean question, the sum goes on top, the number of values goes underneath, and the mean comes here. Once you remember this, you read over the question and then fill in what was given. So Asha's mean score on 2 tests. 2 tests, the number of tests, the number of values was given, and that is 2. The mean on 2 tests was 54. The second thing given is the mean. Once you set it up like this, now what must be done to find the sum? To find the sum, we would multiply the mean and the number of values. So to determine the sum, we will multiply 54 by 2. 2 4s are 8, 2 5s are 10. We know that the total on the 2 tests is 108. Her score on the first test was 12 less than her score on the second test. So now we are going to share the sum between two tests, as it's two tests that she did. So test 1 and test 2. The question is saying her score on the first test was 12 less than her score on the second test. So if her first test is 12 less, her second test is going to be 12 more. So we are sharing. What would we do with the sum, which is 108? We will remove 12 from it. And we will get 96. What will we do at 96? We will now divide 96 between. We will now divide 96 by 2. This number is even, so I know that I can divide it by 2. 2 into 2 is 1. 2 into 9 is 4. 2 4s are 8. After 8, 9, our remainder is 1. 2 into 16 is 8. So we are getting 48 to be 1 share. And remember, it says her score on test 1 is 12 less than her score in test 2. So if her score in test 1 is 12 less, her score in test 2 would be 12 more. And we add 48 and 12, and we will get 60. So what is her score on the first test? Test 1 is 48, test 2 is 60. Question 37. 4 number cards are shown below. 3 numbers are missing. Now let's read. 2 cards have the same number. Okay. Only one number is 6 less than another. All missing numbers are greater than 15. Okay. So immediately from the time you read this, you know